Hello there, YouTube. So, I am running a readathon. Now, this has been going on for a while already, so this is an ongoing readathon, but I thought that I would make this video just to advertise the readathon and put it out there so that people are aware of what's happening. Currently, we have a little over a dozen people actively taking part, maybe a few more than a dozen, and there is actually planned a cash prize for the winner, so that's something to look for. The idea is simple. This started on the 1st of June and it will run until the end of November. And then December we'll spend time going through and counting up the points and awarding the winner so that they can have the reward in time for Christmas, basically. Now, the idea is simply this. There is a board which has 5 categories, and these 5 categories then have some prompts and 2 spots each to fill them. So as you can see, the categories are listed by icons, and those icons, to read off exactly what they represent, we have here the swords, the spaceship, the skull, the computer, and well, I suppose that's the Parthenon, the Greek Parthenon, isn't it? But it's a temple anyway of some description. Those are the 5 different categories, and those represent fantasy, science fiction, horror or dystopia, contemporary, and classics or historical. So there is plenty of wiggle room there. Now, for each of those there is a prompt there which is grand scale, urban grime, pulp action, sweet romance, and big brain philosophy. And there are 2 more specific prompts to fit those themes. For example, grand scale in fantasy there is contains an empire that is at war and contains a giant dragon or other large beast. So those are the 2 different prompts. Now you can do both if you wish, but the idea is you pick one of the 2 and you do that. And there are 50 prompts in total, so the most you're supposed to do is 25, but if you want to, you can do both. So if you wanted to, you could fill all 50 spaces. And as this readathon is going for 6 months, it is actually entirely possible that someone could be reading enough books to fill out this entire board if they're reading, say, 7 or 8 books a month. It is reasonably possible. Though reading 7 or 8 books a month and reading one that fits every single prompt, unlikely, I'd say. Now, the way that the scoring system is going is we have a point system for the books, and it's based on a few different things. So there is something called the Dale Chow rating for books. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ebook for any books that are submitted, and I'm going to run it through a program I've got that analyses prose. And using an algorithm that determines how common the words are in the English language, how complicated the sentence structure is, and how long the book is, it gives you a point total. So it will give us the Dale Chow rating and then points based on how many words there are in the book. For example, under this system, the first Harry Potter book is worth 46 points. The Hunger Games is worth 70 points, but The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson is worth 307 points. So if you were reading all 3 Hunger Games books, you would probably be at around the 210 points mark. Whereas if you read just the first Stormlight Archives book, you're going to have more points than someone who read all 3 Hunger Games books. Because reading all 3 Hunger Games books takes less effort and less time than reading just The Way of Kings. It means that if someone wanted to submit something like War and Peace or Shogun, huge books that are generally considered quite difficult to read, they're going to get way more points than someone who wants to submit, say, the Percy Jackson series of relatively short YA, really easy to read books. You'll be lucky to get more than about 40 points for each of those. Right, maybe 50. Whereas something like War and Peace, probably looking at 400 to 500 points for that book, depending on how difficult the prose is to understand. But from what I gather, it would probably be around that. Now, the idea is we count up all the points at the end, and the person with the most points wins. But there is a little bit of additional, strategy to this. The board, as we can see here, has lines in it. If you go across or down, remember that there's a pair, so you only need one of each pair to get this. So if you go across or down with one of each pair, then that's a full line. And those full lines, which is 5 books, they are worth an additional 500 points. So if you have 5 going down or 5 going across, that is 500 points. If you have 3 or more books from the same series, you get an additional 100 points per book. But they have to meet different prompts. So if you can scatter all 7 Harry Potter books across the entirety of these prompts, then you would have an additional 700 points. And chances are you're probably going to fill out the fantasy section, so that's probably an additional 500 points there. So you can easily game this system a little bit with a little bit of strategy and try and work out a way to make this work for your benefit. However, this is where it's going to be a little tricky. You can, if you want to, fill out both of if you've got a prompt like this one here, you can choose to fill both of those. If you do, however, the second one you fill is worth half the points. That includes a bonus. So if it's 2 books of the same series, the first one will get an additional 100 points. Second one will only get an additional 50 because it's only worth half. So each book that you read is going to be worth a different amount depending on where you put it on the board. So it's going to be interesting to see who plays up for these bonuses, who tries to read really large books to try and maximise the amount of points they're getting, who tries to read really short books. If you wanted to, for example, you could read novellas. You could read 50-page novellas and fill up the board and try and get as many of those 500-point streaks. That's a really, really good way to try and maximise your point total. Or you could, if you think you're able, just try to read really big books and see if you can get 1 or 2 of those streaks and see if having books that are all worth 300 to 400 points or more will make up for the fact that, well, their books are only worth about 50 points each. So it doesn't matter that they're reading 3 times as many books if your books are all worth 5 times as many points. So it's one of those situations where what you read matters in this. So there's a nice bit of competition. So that is what we've got so far. And it's been a lot of fun. People are really taking part. And so far, I have seen some of the submissions from about half a dozen different people. And there are a few people who have well over 1,000 points already. So there are some people who have really worked on that. Some people have got it by reading some really dense, really big books. Some of them have got it by reading a couple of books from a series and fitting them in so that they can get a bonus. There's been a few different strategies. So if you want to take part, it's still a small Discord. So if you join the Discord, you want to take part in our Readathon, you can do. We do not check your submissions, admittedly, which does mean this is risky. Someone could decide to cheat, but I'm going to assume that people are going to be honourable in this regard, especially as we'll know if you've read them, because we'll expect you to be able to at least talk about the books. And if you claim you've read like 5 books and you don't know anything that happens in any of them, we will find out. If you think you can cheat your way through this, if we suspect you haven't read the books you claim and you actually win the cash prize, expect to be banned very quickly if you cheat. Because no one likes a cheater when there's actually a competition on. But I suspect that the kind of people who are going to want to take part in this kind of readathon competition are not going to cheat. I suspect those kinds of people are going to have enough pride in themselves that they're going to want to take part properly. So I don't think there's going to be much of a problem. If you want to take part, any book that you have read after the 1st of June this year will count. So if you've read the book and it was after June the 1st, if you can place it on one of the prompts, it counts. So that's nice. That's going to allow people to already go, okay, what did I read over June, July and August? Can I start to fill out this board? And if you already feel you've got 3 or 4 books that you can place on this board, you may be prompted to try and join in and see if you can get a little bit further. And a little bit more competition is always fun. So far, we have a couple of people who think they're in the lead, but there's still everything to play for. So if you're interested in taking part and you want to have somewhere you can talk about books and have that little bit of friendly rivalry, friendly competition, join the Discord, the Excessive Detail Discord, where you can chat books, you can have a bit of friendly banter and friendly competition about reading, and at the end of which we'll count it up and reward the person who devoted the most of their time to reading a variety of books that meet arbitrary prompts on a random board that I designed in my spare time. Doesn't that sound like fun? I think so. So yeah. Thanks to everyone who's playing already. It's a lot of fun. I, by the way, am competing in my own competition, and I am hilariously being trounced. I have no chance in fucking hell of winning. I may well come last place. The amount of books that everyone else is reading far outstrips what I'm reading. It makes... I feel almost embarrassed to put myself in this competition at this point. I've read so little that, like, there are people who are approaching 2,000 points. I'm still at a few hundred points. So, yeah, it is depressingly low by comparison to the rest of the community. Almost everyone else is way ahead of me. So, yeah. If you want to take part, you'll almost certainly beat me at least. But you might beat a few other people, and you may meet someone who enjoys talking about books in the meantime. You might have a good buddy read. You might get to argue about which book's better, and you may be able to convince people to read your favourite book in the meantime. Who knows? It's a lot of fun. The link is in the description, so come and join us and let's read some more. Let's exchange books and have a good time. Turn this into an interactive and social hobby, because all too often reading is a solitary hobby where you sit on your own and hallucinate while staring at pieces of marked pressed wood pulp. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye.